This is that ice cold Michelle fight for that white gold. This one for them hood girls, them good girls, straight masterpieces. Stylin', wildin', living it up in the city. Got Chuck's on with Saint Laurent. Gotta kiss myself, I'm so pretty. I'm too hot. Call the police and the fireman. I'm too hot. Make a dragon wanna retire, man. I'm too hot. Say my name, you know who I am. I'm too hot. And my band bought that money. Break it down. Girls hit you, hallelujah. Girls hit you, hallelujah. Girls hit you, hallelujah. Cause Uptown Funk don't give it to you. Cause Uptown Funk don't give it to you. Cause Uptown Funk don't give it to you. Saturday night and we in the spot. Don't believe me, just watch. 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 Hey, 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 oh! Stop.
All right. Hello, 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 and good morning. My name is Mac Clemens, and I'm excited to welcome you to today's webinar on using cloud technology and, time-saving tools and stuff for AI. So just a little bit of welcome to all of you who are joining us. I'm just curious if you could raise your hand using the raise your hand button to tell me how familiar you are with cloud tools. Like raise your hand if you are very, very familiar, using them all the time. You're here for like tips and tricks and time savers. Go ahead and do that now, if you would. All right, and those of you who, you're starting to use more and more cloud tools, you're not entirely sure what it means, but you're hoping to learn a little bit more today, please raise your hands. All right. And how have you, and who is here, let's be honest, who's like, I've never used the cloud before. I like don't even know what that is. Okay. All right. We got some of those too. Well, we welcome you all, and we're super excited to have you with us to do that. So we're going to get started, and I'll make sure not to get too far ahead since we're about 2/3 of you ish, maybe a little bit more like, okay, we have some familiarity. And then some of you are like, slow way down. We'll make sure there's something for everyone as a result of what we cover today. All right, so we're going to actually warm up with a cloud quiz just to kind of test your knowledge and see, how clear this is. We're going to talk about why bother, like why even consider cloud technologies. And then we're going to get into 3 categories of cloud tools that might be beneficial for you to consider. Some of our favorites, personally, Annalise and I use this as well. And by the way, if you haven't met, I'm Matt Clemens, of course, but Annalise is joining us, and she is a marketing expert. She's a strategy expert. She wears a lot of hats at Streamline. She's been here since the early days. So like a special district, we had to be really scrappy in our early years. And so she's got thoughts and opinions as well. And then lastly, we'll wrap up with some tips when buying. All right. So, okay, warming up with a little vocabulary, first of all. So for those of you who are completely new to this, I love to point out that there's this term, the cloud, but what cloud just really means is just a bunch of computers. So it's like computers that aren't on your computer, but they're elsewhere. And so Apple, I think, coined this term early on of the cloud. And it's sort of this set of servers and other things out there that's just magic. And so it's a good thing. And so something that's cloud-based or in the cloud just means it's hosted in a data center. So let's say you've used maybe Office 365 for email, or you've used Gmail, like a lot of people use Gmail. That is in the cloud, meaning it's not on your computer. It's in Google's data center. It's in Microsoft's data center, so that if you're accessing it from your device, maybe you've got an iPhone, maybe you've got an Android, it can go talk to that external thing and pull it down. Now, it was very tricky in the early days for people to trust the cloud, because it was hard. But we're going to talk about kind of that evolution and why, people feel that way. And then lastly, we're going to talk about cloud tools. So applications that are run in data centers and that are generally accessed via a browser. All right. So now going in a little bit deeper, let's just start with a cloud quiz. So which of the following is a cloud tool? So those of you who think that Zoom is a cloud tool, raise your hand. Those of you who think Zoom is not a cloud tool, raise your hand. And if you're not sure, that's okay. All right, well, most of you were right. Zoom is a cloud-based tool. Okay, what about Solitaire? Okay, you played Solitaire on a PC, back in the day, Solitaire. If you're old like me, you've definitely played it before. Is Solitaire a cloud-based tool? If you believe it is, raise your hand. If you believe it is not, raise your hand. Oh, Annalise. Okay, Annalise is weighing in as well. Yes, it is not, in fact, a cloud tool. Okay, what about Streamline? I see a few customers here. Is Streamline a cloud tool? If so, raise your hand. Yeah, yes, it is. It absolutely is. Now, what about QuickBooks? Okay, some of you are raising it. Yeah, it's kind of interesting because it sort of is and it isn't. If you're using QuickBooks Online, yes, it's a cloud-based tool. But if you're using QuickBooks Desktop, no, it's not. So this is an example of a product that used to be just something you would install on your computer and you'd use. This is like we used to have QuickBooks Desktop in the early days of our company. We migrated to QuickBooks Online. Happy to do it years ago. It's been awesome. What about Word? Word traditionally, yep, some of you were like, yeah, it's cloud. It is kind of cloud now, but it didn't start that way. If you're using Office 365 and stuff, it can be cloud use. You've got OneDrive for storage, but traditionally, Microsoft Word was kind of a not cloud tool. So you can see it's kind of blurry. A lot of things, even traditional applications, even use cloud-based storage, things like OneDrive. They're all kind of moving this way. And it's kind of for a good reason. Now, one way for sure that it's a cloud-based tool is if you can access it via browser. So if I can go to iCloud.com, then I can definitely know for sure it's a cloud-based tool. There are things that are cloud-based that aren't necessarily browser accessible, but they're pretty rare most of the time. If you can get there from your Chrome, from your Edge, from your Firefox, from your Opera browser, you can be sure that it is a cloud tool. Now, the reason why things move to the cloud is that there's sort of an evolution of the way of thinking. So the old way of thinking, like in banking, people would say, well, my money is safer under my mattress because I can keep control of it. Well, in banking, we eventually sort of moved to this thought that my money's safer in a bank and maybe some in a secondary bank and maybe FDIC is a backup. Banks are pretty safe. Sometimes they collapse. Silicon Valley Bank collapsed not too long ago. But it moved to a secondary thing. Everybody was okay. Depositors remained whole. But it took time for people to trust these institutions, and it took better insurance and regulation to make sure that it was safe. Well, the same thing's kind of happening with technology. In computing, the old way of thinking is hey, my data and my applications are safer in my computer or my IT closet. My old school IT person says we can't trust anything from the outside. But the new way of thinking is hey, my data is probably better in Azure or in Google Cloud or in Amazon Web Services. Streamline, we don't keep it in our server closet here. You won't be surprised to learn. We definitely keep it in one of the best data centers to make sure that it's safe. Well, the same thing applies. We are now shifting to a world where we trust the interconnectedness. And there are, of course, safeguards and controls. Just like a safety deposit box, the bank can't go fishing through it. You have your key, they have their key, but it's in a safe space. And that's why cloud computing is really winning. Not to mention economies of scale. It's so nice that if Streamline's not being used, someone else can use those server resources and then it's shared in a secure way. So anyway, why bother? why bother? I think the number one reason that drives us to cloud-based tools is for efficiency. The second, oh, and by the way, if you have questions at any time, feel free to use the Q&A, and Annalise and I will intercept your questions. I love questions, so feel free. It won't interrupt the talk or anything. I'll make sure to glide right through the questions and come back to it. But it's definitely something that's makes it fun. So please feel free to ask any questions you might have. The second area is efficiency. Excuse me. In addition to efficiency is, of course, resiliency. When we see fires, when we see things happen, like these cloud tools have held up so well. I mean, just think about the pandemic. Like, thank goodness for scalable infrastructure. If Zoom had been on their own hardware, they never would have gotten enough servers set up in time, but they could expand to use big pieces of the Amazon data center as millions and millions of new customers would sign up every day. Transparency. If you as a special district, when you've got, your own, if you're using like something like Microsoft Office 365 for your mail or Google Workspace for, getting mail, someone in your community can say, hey, I sent you a message and you never got it. You ignored it. You didn't want to hear from me. But what's nice, you can be like, no, you never sent it. Certainly, like it's not in our spam folder. And then you can check with Google or Microsoft and say, can you please confirm as a third party and let this person know they never contacted us for sure? Like, and it could be stuck in their outbox or something. It's really nice, like from a transparency perspective. Unfortunately, like districts can very quickly get under the microscope when it comes to transparency and best practices. And I love when you have that backup there for you. Flexibility. So, when you have cloud-based tools, you can answer that email from the beach. Not that you should, or you can work from home during the pandemic and you can look really nice on camera, but still be comfortable. I mean, that's pretty cool too. Now, some people get too comfortable and there was this gimmick product. It's not real. It's just one of those gag boxes, but people can get too carried away with where they work. Of course, we don't advocate that. We want good work-life integration, but something to consider. All right, so with that, we're going to now that we've kind of made the case for why and we've explained what cloud tools are, we're going to get into our favorite tools. Now, this talk was very popular in 2022, coming out of the pandemic when so many cloud tools were awesome. But Annalise and I have revamped this for the 2024 edition to share with you some of our longtime favorites, but also some awesome new tools that get us excited and that we use every day. So they fall in a couple categories. We've got some core products. We have some helpers, like some time-saving tools, and even some more. So, okay, with that, let's jump on in. The first, of course, is Zoom. Like, you're here on this webinar, so you're very well aware of Zoom. But if you haven't used it for your district, you can set up accounts for free. You can have, I think it's half-hour meetings or 40-minute meetings before they kick you off, all for free. So you probably use this to chat with relatives and stuff. Zoom's our favorite. It's really the classic and the go-to. They're constantly adding new features, which we love. Many of you, if you have Office 365, you might be familiar with Teams. And there's some other ones in the space, GoToMeeting, Uber Conference, and more. There's even some free, like freeconferencecall.com and others, like if you just need to connect, that's a great way to do it. But I'll tell you, Zoom, even if you just use it for the audio, just tends to have the best quality. So that's why we like it. Especially some of you districts are remote or you're in areas that maybe don't have, high-speed fiber or something. Zoom's a great option because it's very resilient when there's limited bandwidth. Another one, of course, when you're internally using email, how many of you use Office 365 for your district on an official district workspace? Okay, good. Okay, about 3/5 of you or so. How many of you use Google Workspace for your district? All right, and how many of you just use like a Gmail that you all share or something else? You use something a little bit unofficial, but you're using some other cloud tool for your email. Okay, and then how many of you are using something else I didn't mention. Maybe it's GoDaddy for your email or Yahoo or something else. Okay. So it's interesting. One of the things that I definitely recommend is getting your district on an official email platform. So if you're not on Office 365 or you're not on Google Workspace, like considering those. Rackspace has one too. Proton Mail has one that's secure. If you're really geeky and you like privacy, that's a good one. There's a lot of cool tools, and it will help with spam. It will help with making sure things are backed up. And it's really important that you have different emails for different people on your team, including your board members, because in almost all states, there are public record laws. And if board members are chatting back and forth with their personal email, their whole personal email box becomes discoverable to be sifted through for communication. So it's always best to set them up. It's also important with staff to create, users, make sure they have their own password, make sure they've got two-factor authentication. This is just a little cybersecurity note for you. I always want to make sure you all are feeling safe and good. All right. We got some funny little comics here. One that says, I do not ignore your emails. I personally delete each and every one. That's not our recommendation on how you interface with your community members, but it is very funny. I definitely had people like that where I'm like, what is going on? Okay, just a couple thoughts. As I mentioned, make sure to have your board members on that official email and on your domain. Look, it's $5 a month or $10 a month for some of these platforms. Always worth it. Don't just give up and use Gmail and Hotmails. I know it's tempting. I know it's so nice, but if you have trouble, reach out to us. We'll help you get set up. It won't cost you anything for our time or advice. Our support team loves helping getting people set up on that. Even if you're not on Streamline, come on by. We'd love to help special districts with their tech. Consider it like a mail retention policy too. So if do you delete emails after 2 years? Do you keep them forever? When you have a Google Workspace or an Office 365, you can define these policies. So across your organization, you know how things are going to behave and work. Consider some consistent signatures with your contact information, anything you want to promote. Like, I love this. So some of you, I think, are CSDA members. I just got back from the General Managers Conference in Anaheim yesterday. And, CSDA is great. At the bottom, it says like from Cassandra or from Neil, and then it says, join us at our conference. They've got one coming up in Palm Springs, I think, in September. And so it's got an advertisement and a link. If you want to promote an event or you want to get a message out to your community, let's say you're a sewer district and you're like, hey, keep the fog out of our water, fat soils and grease, or call before you dig, 511 or 411, like any of those PSA kinds of things, you can tie them right into your email signatures. And a lot of people will see them because you're emailing tons of people all the time. So don't forget about that as a marketing opportunity. And then two-factor authentication, it's free on all providers now. In some cases, you can't even get cyber insurance without this enabled. So definitely make sure you're doing that. Now, what does two-factor mean? That means when I go to sign into something on a computer that I haven't signed in on before, it's going to send me a text message, or it's going to ask me for my security key to get in. And that's just that extra bit of safety. So if your email ever gets hacked, they don't automatically get into your bank accounts and others. I'm sure you do this if you have online banking. It's a best practice. Definitely switch it on. It's free to add to your email. Okay, but the other side of email is not just your internal email, it's your external email. So there's MailChimp. That's a big favorite of many districts. There is Constant Contact. Those are two that we see a lot. There's GovDelivery for larger cities or big districts. That's powered by Granicus. And then there is Streamline Engage, which has come out not so recently now. It's been out for a while, where you can actually take content directly from your website and send it out. And you can build and assemble newsletters, which is a really neat time saver. And that helps, and it does it in a compliant way as well with all the different laws. And so, yeah, here's a little look inside Streamline. You'll even get your, and this is true really of any tool. You'll get, how many recipients there were, how many opens, how many clicks, unsubscribes, bounces, and complaints. So it's really important that you don't just use Outlook to blast all of your community, because per the CAN-SPAM Act, you need to make sure you have unsubscribed links. And you also want to be able to track opens and bounces and stuff in order to keep your list clean, so you end up not in people's spam folders, but directly in the right inbox. Because what happens is if you send out mass email from your own Outlook, you kind of BCC, 50 people or whatever. If anybody marks you as spam, you get on the spam list as you personally. So you go to email your colleagues or other people, vendors, they're not getting your email. So you always want your email delivery system to be like a post office that's separated from your personal accounts, just to keep that reputation clean. All right. How many of you use chat utilities? Raise your hands. Okay, got a couple of you. Now, whether you use them internally or elsewhere, chat tools are great for being able to communicate internally, and they save a lot of email. That's why I like it. We personally use Slack, but some of you might use Discord, maybe chat with grandkids on Discord or little nephews and nieces like I do. But there's so many great chat tools. It seems like everybody's launching a chat tool. Now Zoom has chat. Now everybody's like adding to it. But it's something to consider. Slack is the popular one. MS Teams comes with Office. GChat from back in the day, not so popular now. And then even within your website or even in your intranet, there's chat tools. That can be a big time saver and better organized conversations. Some of the big advantages too are threads. So you can go back inside and communicate in threaded conversations. So it just is less email to deal with. And of course, Discord, pretty awesome. All right, now let's get into the helper category. ChatGPT is really the tool of the year last year, and nothing has changed there. How many of you use ChatGPT? Raise your hand or have tried it. Okay, about half. For those of you who have not, I want to just give you a little quick view of this. So, how many of you have how many of you do not have a newsletter? Okay. So for those of you who don't, I'm assuming it's probably you don't have the time to put one together. And Shelly, can I pick on you for a second? Would you type into chat the name of your district and maybe a little bit about why any notes you have on like why why not why you maybe what kind of stops you from having a newsletter? North Ada County Fire and Rescue District. Okay. Any kind of, is it just time? Is it, what is it that kind of keeps you from doing that? As she's responding, not to put you on the spot. Oh, okay. You have JPAs with larger fire districts and cities. Oh, okay. Cool. So in that case, like if you, a lot of times, like what will happen with folks is that they will have really limited time or they don't have a lot of, I don't know, brain power to think up newsletter articles and things to go out. But what's cool is if you have little updates that are happening with the district, you can ask ChatGPT to help you come up with some ideas. So in this case, I'm going to say, help create a newsletter for the North Ada County Fire and Rescue District. And if I just pull up the website here, what's cool is like we can see, they've got current news, they've got all the stuff here. It's nice and friendly, got the mission statement, etc. And so what we can do is say, hey, will you help me create a newsletter for the North Ada County Fire and Rescue District? I'll say 3 stories. And now we'll hit go. And it will identify a couple ideas for us. And like, it's interesting. It works just like a chat interface, and it'll go through and, it says, hey, is this kind of what you think would be good? Do you have specific stories you want to cover? And then what's neat is you can even feed it really clear things. And you can even say, yes, like, go ahead. Yes, this sounds great. Will you help me draft it? And then here's I can give it the website and it'll grab that. And then it'll go ahead and create a newsletter. Now, one of the things that's sort of interesting is that you may want to make sure that the information is accurate. The way that these AI systems work is they kind of predict the next word. It's called a token prediction system. So it's kind of like if I go and send Annalise a text message on my phone, and like right above the keyboard, there's like the suggested words that come up next. If I were to just kind of keep tapping those and tapping those, it'll like write a sentence for me of kind of like gibberish, and it would just keep going and going. This is like a very advanced version of that, where it's kind of just rolling with it. And it does this by looking at all the other examples of writing that it's seen. So sometimes it can put things together that aren't true, but sound good or sound like other things they've seen. And that's called hallucinating. So if you use this tool, you just want to make sure that everything that's in here is accurate. And you've got, a nice little newsletter to start with that you could send out to membership community. What's so nice is I can just talk with it and say, like, actually, Sarah doesn't work here anymore. Let's replace her with firefighter Bill. Here's 5 bullet points about him, whatever you want to do. And then you're able to create a nice newsletter that's ready to go in just minutes. And even if it's just something you want to do, once a year, twice a year, or maybe you just want to start putting a box on your website to start collecting those addresses, you can, and it's really rewarding. What's cool about this too is like tools like ChatGPT can not only create text, but they can even create graphics. So I can say, create a graphic of, I'm going to pick on Sarah Thompson. I don't know if you really have a Sarah Thompson as a person here, but we'll pretend that she's part of this. Actually, you know what? I'm going to create a picture of Shelley Vaughn and on a fire truck. Shelley, what's your favorite color? Red. Okay. On a fire truck, on a red fire truck. Actually, I'm going to say red. And what's your second favorite color, Shelley? And then what's your favorite kind of animal? We're really brainstorming. But the point I want to make is like, you can create any original graphic. So like, let's say, okay, no animals. Okay, no animals in front of a garden with green and red flowers. And so then it will create a picture of Shelley. It'll just make something up. But this is something that if we wanted to, we could even add to our newsletter. So let's say we don't have time to go take some photos of the district, even though the best graphic of a district you could take. And now it's a graphic of Shelley on the front with of a green and red fire truck, not very much green, and then followed with green and red flowers and plants behind her. Just like that, it can create a graphic. She said it looks just like her. But anyway, these can be used in your newsletters too if you need to quickly create materials, and it will generate it. So much power inside of this. And if I said, write a poem about Shelley, 10 lines in the form of Dr. Seuss, it would do that. In a garden so bright with flowers in bloom, rode Shelley on a fire truck, zoom, zoom. Like, it'll make a whole poem for you. You can write children's stories for your kids. You can write all kinds of stuff using these tools. They're absolutely incredible in terms of what they can produce. In the land of Ada, she's the one they adore. For Shelley, our hero, there's always more. Oh, okay, let's give a round of applause to Shelley for being the victim of the example here. Shelley, thank you for letting me put you on the spot. So just an example, if we did a newsletter like this, maybe you're getting ready for fall, maybe you want to share fire safety tips, you can do that so quickly in these tools. Canva, another big favorite of ours. Annie and I use this one all the time. It's awesome for being able to create cool, professional looking graphics. And they now have an AI design tool that is in beta. It doesn't always work. I once went to demo it on a webinar and it didn't work. So I won't demo it today, but it's really neat. You can create graphics if you've got upcoming stuff. Just a reminder, you want to be ADA compliant with those graphics that you make. So always make sure, you have some text going along with those graphics to explain what they do. If you ever want to learn more about ADA compliance, we've got lots of webinars on that. They'll be part of summer school. Now, Grammarly is one of my favorite tools. I plug that in on my computer and I use it all the time there, and it's awesome. Okay, Carrie asked, why have I heard that Canva is not ADA accessible? Sean Jordison probably told you that if you've attended our how to make PDFs accessible talk. This is true. The latest I've heard is that Canva still has accessibility issues. And so we will want to make sure that we check all of that whenever possible to ensure that it is up to date. All right. And there's another tool, I think I have it listed in this presentation around ADA compliance, that you can make Canva looking graphics on a platform that focuses on accessibility. Now, if you're just doing a social media graphic that's like, if it's something like this, where it's like a turkey and stuff, this is decorative. So accessibility is not such an issue because the important content is here in text. So just like if you're using Canva to add illustrations, or sometimes if you're using Canva to put up like an infographic, which I think infographics are great engagement tools for districts, just make sure you write the content or the key points below. So somebody who can't see, who's blind, and they're using a screen reader to read them what's on the page, that they could experience that in a way that would make sense too. It's just as easy as writing down the statistics featured in the graphic in either the alt text or elsewhere on the page in an alternative format. Cool.
I have a quick note about Canva too.
Yes.
Why I love it personally, because you can upload your brand logos and fonts and things directly into Canva. So if you're working with a bigger team, or you have more than one person on your team who's managing any materials that you're creating, so you can make sure that all of those are on brand for your district. You're using all the same logos, all the same information to have consistency across all of your platforms. So it's all built in right there, which is awesome. You don't have to go digging for your logos or your fonts or anything like that. It's all just built right in, and your whole team can be on the same page. So super efficient that way too.
Yes. Okay. Such a good point, Annalise. Very, very helpful. Yep. Okay. Venngage is the other one you can consider for better accessibility. Just an alternative. But I gotta say, I love my Canva. I just make sure to add the alt text. So, and everyone's getting on Canva's case about their accessibility stuff. The big problem is mainly like when you make an annual report with Canva, it is not accessible. It has to be like fixed by a remediation person if you're going to post that on your website and not also have the content on a web page. That's mainly where you run into trouble. That's kind of an edge case. Okay, now what I love is Grammarly. Now they've added AI into this too. AI is working its way into everything. But what I love about Grammarly is that it just helps you write better. And for me, like I can play, it's installed on my computer. It helps me check all the things I write because I love good grammar, but I don't always have great grammar. So I want to make sure that it's there to help me. And it just underlines things. It's like beyond spell check. It will make sure that you're using the right that you're using, that your sentences make sense, that your commas aren't all messed up. And it teaches you. Like, I love it. It's like a proofreader just right over my shoulder. If you want to sound more professional and have more confidence in what you're sending out, and you're maybe a little bit skeptical of tools, Grammarly is a great place to start. That is very lightweight, works great, and plugs right into the most popular tools that you need. All right, shifting gears, I'm going to get into touchless tasks, which is things like online payments, signing documents, and electronic forms. So things you used to do with pencil and paper in the office. These are some of our favorite tools. Okay, so of course, there's things like, if you wanted to buy me a beer, you can do that. It's only $10. Apparently, I drink very nice beer. But no, I mean, coming down more to it. If you have fillable forms, Adobe Acrobat is kind of the big one here. But I would say the big movement now, like if you have very, very official stuff, deeds, things like that, DocuSign is the tool that we use the most internally. What DocuSign just added this year is ID verification. So it's kind of like, think of it as almost like notarizing the document for you, where they will capture the person's ID, make sure they are who they say they are, record them, and then it makes the document ultra enforceable. So this is definitely the future. And with, AI, able to talk to people and do funny stuff now, it's like security has become more of an issue. But this is really, really powerful. So I know people start by like putting forms on their website, then people have to download it, fill it in, fax it in or something. That's like the least cloud enabled version, or mail it. The next level up is to have fillable PDF forms where you still have the original form appearance, and then people can fill it out like this, and maybe they can submit it via email or something else. The gold standard is to really move to electronic forms. This is so much easier. You can do it from a mobile device. You can do it if you have a disability. You don't have to, fuss with Adobe. And now there's e-signatures built in. Like if you're using Streamline, we now have enforceable signatures. It's called Streamline Verify. So they can electronically sign these forms when they fill them out and come on through, which is pretty awesome. So, but Streamline Forms is not the only one. There's Google Forms. There's PDF forms, of course. There's websites. FormStack is a good one. If you even need like HIPAA certified, PCI compliant, stuff like that, FedRAMP certified, FormStack can do all of that. So we have some healthcare districts. They need to take new patient intake forms. In that case, it's best to use one that has specific HIPAA compliance. So anyway, check all those out. And they all have, of course, free trials and things. Now, a new thing we added this year to our Cloud Talk is GIS. So if you are a water district, you might have to submit lead pipe reports to the federal government about where all your lead pipes are. You have to submit this using GIS tools. Well, there's some awesome partners there. CalCAD is a partner of CSDA. I just saw them yesterday at the conference. They're awesome. IM GIS is a great new company out of Minneapolis. It's really transforming the space, and they've been specifically working with districts. Derek Basheau is their CEO. Great guy. Really cool. They have very affordable packages. So if you want to keep track of your assets or all of your pipes, all of your wires, whatever it is, that's a cool tool you can get going on. Esri is the big gorilla. You can do all kinds of stuff with Esri, but they're a big company with all the pros and cons of that. And they are expensive as hell. So there's that. And then you've got ArcGIS, you have OpenStreetMaps, you've got all kinds of other tools that you can use out there. But GIS may be part of your, skill set as something. If you even want to just create a basic map of your district boundary, you could have a simple GIS tool, even a free one that you feature on your website and put there. I used to bury my bones. Now I upload them to the cloud. It is amazing, the different things that you have that you can do that is available. Notarize. I've used notarize.com. It's pretty fascinating. You can do it. It's $25 a document. You can even do you can create a template. Like, let's say I wanted to do a non-disclosure agreement for everybody coming to this talk. I could give you a link to my Notarize form, and you could fill it out. And then an online notary will join you and fill it out and stamp the notary and make it ultra official. So even things that used to be completely in person are now online. Now, it's interesting. California doesn't fully accept this for things. So I was doing an update to my will and trust. And before I went on these scary roller coasters in Disneyland, I'm scared of roller coasters. But anyway, long story, a little bit of an aside, but I had to update my will and trust. They don't accept electronic notaries in California for that will and trust, according to my trust attorney. But there's a loophole where you just have to get one. They'll recognize out-of-state notarization for the will and trust. So I just had to use a notarize.com notary from Nevada, and then it worked fine. I mean, it's so stupid, right? But it's just well, okay. So these tools are amazing, and this has been a lifesaver when I've been on the go and needing to get something done, and I just can't get to the offices and traffic and stuff. So notarize.com, it's pretty cool. All right, and then shifting to our last category, productivity tools. So this falls in the category of document storage and retention, electronic form collections, and project management, and even remote training and onboarding. So checklists, scheduling, forms. These are things you can do to supercharge your productivity as a district. These are some of our favorites. So document storage and retention. Do any of you use Laserfish still, or SharePoint? Okay, yeah, there's a better way. There's new stuff. So, SharePoint is it's been around for a long time, but it's, we were just chatting with Sacramento Metro Fire, and they they have some old ASP or .NET like systems that they're using for things like time cards and stuff like that. They're so happy with some of these new cloud-based tools, and they're moving that way. Laserfish too for document storage and tagging and all that stuff can be integrated into your processes, but there's just a lot of options now to look at. We have released a Streamline Portal product, which can be, it's like Streamline, but just internal to your team or even for your board. And that has unlimited storage. So you can store as many files and stuff as you want. And there's even like AWS, you can just buy, drives. Dropbox, Box.net is another one that's really been competitive and has a lot of cool workflows and stuff. But it's pretty neat and amazing what you can do in terms of your options for document storage and retention. And even when you think about what documents are you storing, like, are these forms that people are filling out? Could we be using an electronic form system to track some of this information? There are fresh ways of looking at this. And a lot of these cloud-based tools will have solution teams there that you can reach out to their sales team, and they'll get a sales engineer on and help you even brainstorm. Even if you don't go with them, they'll help you think about your process and how you can digitize existing processes, but also think about, backups, redundancy, disaster recovery, etc. Now, we're going to get into some of our favorite project management tools. Annie, do you want to tell us about Notion, your absolute favorite way to organize your mind?
Definitely. I absolutely love Notion. So I stumbled upon this earlier this year, and just started using it because it's so intuitive. So you can take notes, and you can create kind of a project management system all in one. It's pretty awesome that way. So if you want to take notes and then drop that into a to-do or some sort of board to manage all of your tasks, it's really intuitive and it'll kind of automate all of that for you. And you can categorize things based on priorities and projects and things like that. And they have so many templates already pre-prepared for you. So you don't have to think about like, I want a new project plan. It'll give you a template for that. And you can just drop in your own content and things like that. So Notion is wonderful. And if you upgrade to, I think, just the one above the free version, you get the calendaring system, which will keep your calendar on track, and it'll log your events and things as well. So if you're busy in back-to-back meetings and things like that, it'll help keep you on track as well. So I absolutely love Notion. I could go on and on for days, but super intuitive and so easy to use.
So project management, and I'm sure some of you all run the district. I know some of you on this call, you are the people that are the backbone of district operations. You've got to do more with less. So these tools like Notion is great for also project management. ClickUp is another new kind of favorite that people love. It can do it all. It can be great for organizing work internally on your team. The team has to be all in really to make the most use of it, but it's pretty awesome what you can do. One of the ones that was really like the OG, like sort of the original one in the space is Trello. And Trello is like this board. It's called, I think, a Kanban board or something. They've got a term for it, where it's a digital version of Post-it notes on a wall. I don't know if you're like me and you like to kind of work with Post-it notes and get things, and they're like, here's the to-do, here's the in progress, here's the done. Basically, you can make these different stacks, and then you can drag the things back and forth. And it's really fun. So if you have a kind of a straightforward project, you want to try Trello, it can do everything, and it's really neat. And it's free to sign up and try. It's a fun way for those of you who are really visual or maybe new to cloud tools to try, and you could try it for organizing a project. And like, this is us. Like we had back in the day, before Streamline has a more formal system, this is how we would do we just kind of keep track of stuff that was going on, and we could assign it to people and do lots of fun stuff with it. Asana, just, to go through some other project management tools, Asana is another one that is pretty popular and out there. There is a free option. There's just a lot of great ways you can organize, tag things. It's a little bit more complex than, say, Trello, but it's powerful. And the very first, in my opinion, really good cloud-based project management tool, it's the classic, is Basecamp. And I don't know, it's just really, really simple, really elegant, and they've done a great job with this. It's classic. And yeah, they will structure you. It's a highly opinionated software. It's like, no, your to-dos should be like this. To-dos can only be assigned to one person, not two people, because assigning a to-do to two people is bad practice. So like when you get Basecamp, you get their opinions on the right ways to do things. But if you're new to a system, it's a great one to try because it'll really quickly coach you into best practices. The other one is Teamwork. This is a big one, and Monday.com. This is good. We've used this in my previous life as a website design agency. Like when we would work with different colleges and folks, we could, assign things to people. It's super powerful. And then, of course, Monday.com. This is a little bit, it's gotten a lot of investment. They've added a lot to the software. But man, if you ever are considering project management, Monday is, but for the people that love it, I mean, you can run your whole company off of Monday.com. It's pretty incredible. Lots of project templates that you can jumpstart with. It's colorful. There are more bells and whistles than you could ever imagine. What's nice is you can communicate with people outside of the project that aren't signed in, and they can respond via email. It goes back in. It's actually true of a lot of these tools. But the only disadvantage is there is no free option. There's only a free trial. Now, one other thing to kind of go beyond project management is staffing. So if let's say you've got a project, like one of the things we've had to use this for in the past is when we get really busy and we need to migrate content from old special district websites to new special district websites on Streamline, we will sometimes scale up our workforce using Upwork. And so you can go find experts in things. Like let's say you need to hire a copywriter, or let's say you need to hire, I don't know, a graphic designer for a particular thing. This will give you access to the entire world of talent. And kind of like Yelp reviews, you can see people's star ratings. You can see how much work they've done, who they've done work for. You can see their portfolio. It's a great way to hire and try people. Man, in California, it is a real hassle to hire people, especially contractors. This kind of gets around that because you hire Upwork and then Upwork hires the people. So they deal with the employment relationship. And then, avoiding the employment relationship, I should say. But it's a really powerful way that you can just find talent for things. So designing creative, development in IT. Maybe you have an old application that you have to maintain, and the IT person that wrote it 30 years ago is no longer with the district. And you're like, crap, I need somebody who understands this one crazy language. You can go on Upwork and find a person that works with that one crazy language and see, oh, well, they've done 30 projects of this type and they got really good ratings and they have good references. I'll hire this person. It's a pretty safe way to try short-term talent needs. And it's a cloud-based tool. It's pretty amazing. We talked about, electronic form collection and, all kinds of stuff. All of that is possible also in the intranet context too. So anything, paper and pencil, forms, emails, PDFs, there may be more efficient ways using electronic forms, and it can be pretty awesome. You can edit and update all of those components as well. Now, lastly, we created a new category of tools called ADA testing tools. This is so important. Every district in America, as of a month ago, it was announced by the Department of Justice that all districts must be ADA compliant and that they will be enforcing. They'll be enforcing in January 2026, but don't wait for 2026 because this is already the law and there's already the right to private remedy. People can bring lawsuits and other stuff. 7% of districts have been hit with some kind of action around ADA. So it's a lot more common than you think. And 7% might not seem like high chances, but the average settlement and remediation is $38K. So you don't want to mess with this. And districts don't talk about it. They quietly settle out of court, but insurance doesn't really cover this. So anyway, we could talk on and on about ADA as we do, but I want to just share some great tools that can keep you ahead of it so you're not in harm's way there. Checkmydistrict.org is obviously the flagship one for districts. It's being used and endorsed by the National Coalition, CSDA in California, SDA in Colorado, SDAO, and more. And so, yes. Oh, Carrie has talking permitted. Carrie, did you have something to say, or did? Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not sure how that happened. Okay. Cool. And so what we love about Check My District is that it's free. We helped build this tool with the coalition because we noticed that districts were getting picked on by accessibility providers. They were being called told that their sites weren't accessible, that, there were issues, but then they would ask, well, can you give me the report? And they would say, well, only if you, sign up for this or sign up for that, but like, look at this report, but no, we can't show you the details. It was very annoying. So we just to give the middle finger to all of those companies, we worked with the district associations themselves were very sick of it. So we rolled out Check My District, and it's been great. The disadvantages is it doesn't scan those PDF attachments, and what we've learned from the DOJ is that that's going to be included in the scope, and it doesn't have a check for closed captioning on video. So that's something you would definitely want to make sure you do. There's a bunch of other tools you can consider. Lighthouse, it's free. It's built right into the Google Chrome browser. Userway, it's in the legal community. There's Common Look. There is AChecker. There's Moncito. Anyway, lots of stuff to consider out here. We don't know all of these companies or necessarily recommend them, but they're just things to consider that are popular that we see used by districts. Are you sure this is how we get data into the cloud? As he takes a CD-ROM and uploads it into Balloons. I love that kids these days don't even know what those are. It's incredible. Well, as we wrap up, we're coming up on time. I want to leave you with a few tips for picking the right tools, whatever cloud tool it may be. We've covered a wide range of different categories, but the tips tend to be the same. One is that you want to make sure that you have your team members write down their means or channels of communications, how they perform tasks, how they manage projects. Like, I remember this one case where somebody came to me and they're like, I need you to help us set up a Adobe Acrobat server because, and I didn't even ask why, but I was like, oh, okay, well, in order to do that, you're gonna have to get this license, set up this, and do this, create this virtual instance. But then I got to asking why. I was like, wait, why do you need this? They're like, oh, so people can submit the forms they fill out. It's like, well, what forms are they filling out? Oh, to register for our conference. I was like, oh, well, why aren't you just using Eventbrite to have people register for an event? And they're like, what's Eventbrite? And I was like, oh, stop. Don't do all this. So the first thing you want to figure out is do a little discovery. Like, how are people actually, what tools and processes are they using? Because before you bring in a solution, you want to understand the problem. And this is just 101 with any cloud tools. Make sure you understand what the process is and write down that process before researching. And then when you research, you want to research and review the alternatives on tools like G2 Crowd or Capterra. G2 Crowd is now G2, but what G2 is like a review site for tools. So let's say you've been using Zoom and you want to find some alternatives to Zoom. You can go on G2 and you'll see what other people are using as alternatives, what the pricing is, what the experience is, what things you might be missing if you switch from one to another. It's awesome way to compare shop cloud tools. That's literally what that site is doing. And what's neat is now they have this AI powered thing, like every other company, but an AI powered thing where you can actually kind of share the problem you're trying to solve, and then it will recommend solutions. I haven't tried it personally, but it's something to consider. Always try before you buy. If someone's like, no, you have to sign this 1-year annual contract with a $30,000 setup fee, be very skeptical. The old way of doing things is big, expensive IT procurement projects. The new way of doing things is you got to try it for a little while, and then you're upgrading to their enterprise plan. You used it, you liked it, then you're paying for better service and expanded product. That's always really important. Look for those government agency discounts. So CSDA, NSDC, others, they've really got some good tools for this. And then try to consolidate as much as possible. Let's see, sorry, one thing. There it goes. Okay, try to consolidate as much as possible. So, if you're paying for a chat tool and you're paying for a file sharing tool and you're paying for a, project management tool, it's like, wait, can all of those be consolidated into one system? Each of these systems, gosh, good old Zoom, every time I sign into it, it's got 5 new features. Everyone's trying to offer more into their products to help you consolidate, so you don't have to buy 5 tools. You can buy 2 tools. You can get the best of each. Remember to be thoughtful about that personal versus work account. So discoverability. So if you do go sign up, maybe you try Canva with your personal account, do it for fun. I helped somebody do this advertisement for a daycare clinic. It was like my friend who desperately needed her daycare clinic to be promoted because she didn't want it to shut down. She wouldn't have a place to take her kids. She's like, Mac, help me with this problem. So on a weekend, I was over at their house for a barbecue, got out my laptop, whipped up a little something in Canva, showed her how to run some Facebook ads. She's really happy. But like, that's fine to try it out personally. But if I was going to use that at Streamline, I wouldn't want to use that personal account because Annalise might be like, hey, Mac, I need to fix a typo on that flyer you sent out. But, you know, if I'm on vacation, she's going to be really irritated. Or worse, if I worked at a special district and there's a Public Records Act request, then I've got to give away my personal account for all of that stuff to be discovered. So just good boundaries, remember, between your personal and your work accounts again. And of course, when it comes to licensing, we're dealing with this with stupid Zoom webinar where I was like trying to get details for this, right? We're like, dang, it doesn't share easily. Just be very careful about sharing passwords to save money. I think if we had done this, Annalise, it would have been easier if we just had a common account, but we're doing the right thing for a cybersecurity standpoint. Often these companies will charge you to have multiple users. So you think you're saving money by having a shared password. If you're going to share passwords, make sure you're using a password manager. You're using a 1Password or a Bitwarden or a LastPass. You're using some secure way. Don't just like write them on a Post-it note and stick them underneath your keyboard. We want to make sure that you've got the right tools in place for that. So just be really, really careful if you're sharing passwords just to save money. I really respect that you're trying to save money, but there are going to be some cybersecurity implications. Lastly, for AI tools, you want to consider supervision. AI is a tool. It's like a very brilliant child, but you don't want to turn it loose. You don't want it making employment decisions for you, scanning resumes. AI systems can have a lot of bias built into them. It's fine for a newsletter. It's fine for a graphic. It's fine for something fun like that. But you just want to be careful and you want to, for sure, consider a policy. All right. So what are your favorite tools? If there's any that you have that are, something you'd like to share, please put them in chat. We're always looking for new tools. We're always looking for new categories. On behalf of Annalise and myself, we want to thank you for coming to this webinar. We think there's so much cool stuff that's happening in the space of special districts. And we think that the more that you can explore these cost-saving tools on the cloud, you can have more flexibility, more reliability, more resilience in the face of disaster, and the ability to better serve your community. Again, my name is Matt Clemens. I'm with Streamline. I was joined by Annalise today. Thank you for joining us. We'll, of course, send out the recording and the slides, and we'd love to hear from you about your favorite cloud tools so we can share them with other districts, promote better ways of working. All right. Thank you. And just remember, Annalise put in there, don't forget there's a cybersecurity webinar on July 10th. So if you're interested in learning the 10 things you can do to stay safe in a world of threats against districts, please consider tuning in. We're going to make it easy to understand and helpful for your organization, we think. All right. Thanks again, and we'll see you hopefully at the next webinar. Take care.
Wait a minute. Oh my God. Put some nigga in. Take a sip. Sign the check. Fully out. Get the scratch. Hollywood, Jackson, Mississippi. If we show up.